Well, that's basically the purpose is to question everything all the time and see where he leads you, right? So I've been questioning everything and looking at the other side. If there are sides, I guess there's all kinds of sides to things. But one thing I have always believed and have concluded a long time ago is that it's basically stupid to divide Jews or Hebrews and Gentiles. That wall is crumbled. So there is no division. There's no such thing as a Jew needs to circumcise himself today physically and a Gentile doesn't. That's stupid. That means what Christ, the Messiah didn't fulfill something for certain people. So the only question is, because it's not about whether one thing or the other. It's either all are one or there's nothing, and all are one should be doing certain things or they don't have to do certain things. That's it. There's no division. But it seems like Christianity runs into a problem when somebody tells them there's no division, because then it doesn't seem like certain things went away like they claim. But if it did, and it's all 100% spiritual, which has been my understanding for a long time, and I'm just examining some of these other things, uh, are all the things spiritual, all the commandments, everything about it, all the law, spiritual. Fulfill it in your heart, and physical things don't matter. It's either that's true or none of it's spiritual and it's all just physical, I guess. But that'd be an impossible thing to say, I think, that none of that was spiritual or represented something spiritual. And this would include, all the feast days and Sabbaths and the food law and everything else. So there seems to be division and confusion about these things, as for what the common teaching is, from my best understanding of what this world is that Christians, everything was made clean and there's nothing to anything anymore. It's just all spiritual. And for Jews, it's not. It's not spiritual. It's like physical, You got to do all these things, keep them physically, literally. But there is no such thing as that. It's either all people who believe everything is spiritual, or there's some things that they're still supposed to like keep, physical days and stuff. And that was obviously, no one will disagree that that was important back then to keep these physical days and do these things. But the claim is the reality wasn't there yet. They didn't have the Messiah yet. The reality wasn't there. So if the reality is already resurrected, glorified at the right hand of God, then what's the explanation for keeping some of these things physical if the reality is already here? It kind of doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense to say Jews have to keep the law and like Christians don't. Either all of them are supposed to or all of them are not supposed to. There's no such division. That's just pure stupidity. That's to say God did something different with certain races. It literally comes down to that. There's two different messiahs, a messiah for Hebrews, Jews, and a messiah for Christianity. It literally comes down to that. That's what you have to end up saying for people who believe that the church world is like apart, divided from Israel. It's totally separate. It's not grafted in. So there's no such thing as two. It's all one. And are physical things important? That's the question. It doesn't seem to be so. has been my understanding overall, always, unless something changes and makes it permanent. It's settled for good. It's all spiritual. That means physical days don't matter. That means physical food doesn't matter. That means physical touching stuff doesn't matter. And there seems to be some strong verses that imply that, touch not, taste not, handle not. All these things concern with things that are perishing, Paul says. So why wouldn't that be true for the Jews also? I have no idea why that wouldn't be true for all the Jews under the new covenant today, because there is no old covenant. If they kept some of these physical things back then, well, then there is, because the old covenant still was standing, I guess. But does that mean that it applied still, just because the temple was standing? I don't know for sure. But either way, it doesn't exist now, since it was destroyed and taken out of the way. The only thing is the new covenant, and it's clear that all are one. And if you're grafted into that one thing, then you cannot say that Jews have something different and Christians have something else different. For the one group that believe it's either all things are spiritual and have a spiritual meaning and application, or it doesn't, and they're all physical still. Why would both be true? If you understand the meaning of that physical thing, that tutor of what it means spiritually, why do the physical? If you understand the symbol, the physical thing, the outwardly thing of baptism, water, then why would you need to do two things? Isn't the spiritual thing the only thing that's important? Being baptized in the Spirit with fire spiritually. And then, and Paul says there's one baptism. I think he would have to say there's two. There's one Spirit, one faith, one baptism, all these things. But there's no division. There's no such thing as that. It doesn't exist. If it did exist for a few short years, which I can't even see any actual proof. But if it did, then surely it's been vanished since Jerusalem was done away with. Natural Jerusalem and the old covenant. There's only a renewed new covenant now. There's nothing else. And Gentiles are grafted into the one thing. So the same truth is for all of them. The question is it all spiritual and strictly? Is it both? Or is it just like all physical? Which I maintain that it can't be. Just what value is it, physical? Like, this thing right here, don't touch it. Did you learn your lesson spiritually what that means? Well, then how does actually touching this defile my spirit? You know what I'm saying? So I'm still looking into what these people I'm reading and stuff, what their proof so-called is, what they're saying. I'm examining it. But none of it's making 100% sense yet. Some of the things they claim, and the people that claim division makes no sense at all. It's stupid. It doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for almost 2,000 years. So either keep the commandments, but are all the commandments strictly spiritual? What's the physical have to do with it? That's what I'm questioning. What's the physical have to do with the law or keeping commandments if the law is spiritual? So it's either one truth for all people or there's some other truth for all people. It's not Jews keep commandments and Gentiles don't. That's stupid. It's stupid. You might as well say Gentiles go and break commandments. Go and break laws, become lawless, like it says many will be. And I want to make sure I know why many are going to be found to say, Lord, Lord, they were believers. They had faith.
Christians have faith. They have all kinds of faith, but they're going to be found lawless. Many. When it means many, it's like 90 something percent, because there was never a time when 90 something percent in Israel were believing, and they were just always believing and obedient. Never. It was only many called, few chosen. Only a few had actual faith, which means they did something about it. And the others, they just say they had faith, but they worshiped other gods and they did other things, like we read, and broke his commandments, broke his law, statutes, all that stuff. So the question is, is most of Christianity that says Lord, Lord today, what are they? Well, I maintain that most of them are not following the Messiah like they claim to, because I see all I see is division and spiritual problems and doctrines of demons and whatnot. So I'm going to continue to look into these things. But the question is, does physical things, does it mean anything? Is it important, physical stuff? If it's all about the heart and spiritual things, law written in your heart, does the physical outwardly aspect of that commandment or thing apply at all in any way, But to say it applies for like the commandments and the law and everything, they have to do that. Yeah, that's right. Jews have to do that. But Christians don't. Can't people at least see that's stupid? Either all Jews and Gentiles should keep his way, keep his commandments, keep his law, not as like mandatory, not that saves you, but this is what you end up doing if you have faith. Either all do that or are supposed to do that, or all are not supposed to do that. And they basically have like one or two verses that don't even prove. They're just neutral. They're just neutral. So I'm gonna keep on. I'm examining what they're saying, but I'm careful not to necessarily just automatically believe what someone says. So I'm just going to keep seeking the truth and see what the Spirit says, because that's at the end of the day the final authority for what I'm given. Depraved mind. Some of the things that they're saying is just, it makes absolutely no sense, and there's so much division, and so many churches agree on this division, that Jews need to do something and Gentiles need to do something different. It doesn't make sense. Either all are one in Messiah, and all are spiritual, or all are not. But physical things, that's the question. Physical, outwardly things, how important are they is the question. Can it defile your spirit? And it seems to be pretty clear, at least at first glance, saying that. I don't see how it could. Someone that's spiritual and has had this understanding for, belief, faith for 7 years. I don't see how something physical could defile you just by like touching it, That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying all physical acts are good to go. That's not what I'm implying. Like committing adultery, obviously, but isn't the problem in your mind? Isn't the adultery in your mind? And if you are spiritually not committing adultery, the sort of don't commit physical adultery is like for kids. That's how I've seen it for a long time. That's for kids. Do not murder. If I'm focusing on only the spiritual thing, which is don't even hate the person, then don't shoot them or kill them, is for kids.
And I think that's the proper understanding. That the physical commandments are good to give to your kids. Don't slash someone's throat. Don't steal physical things from them. So if you break the spiritual law and commandments, well, then you could be found lawless like that. But it doesn't really have much to do with physical things, does it? But I do like to hear what other people say, and I read what other people say, and I'll continue to read and see what they say just out of curiosity's sake, just because it interests me. But my understanding has been it's always a spiritual understanding. And if your heart is right, then you're not willfully sinning if your heart is right. But you could be keeping a bunch of physical things and your heart could be totally screwed up, and then you're in error. So what's more important then? To not keep some physical, don't touch this, don't eat this, or have a spiritually, converted mind, heart, renewed mind? So it seems like a lot of people are confused about these things, but I think they cause the confusion. Primarily, but I still don't like the division teaching. It just doesn't make sense. It's just not logical. It's stupid to me. And I don't believe there's any scripture to actually back it up that like Jews are not spiritual people. They have to keep like physical things. This is what they imply. But Gentiles are the church, and they don't have. Why is there a division? That's like implying that there's more than one spirit. The spirit of something else enters a Jew, but just because he's a Jew, and then the spirit of the true Messiah enters the Gentile just because they're Gentiles. That's what they're basically saying. And it's stupid. I'm pretty confident in that. I'm not confident 100% in all things, maybe, but I'm confident in that that's stupid. There's only one body of believers. That body, he's the body. He's the head of the body, which represents all the members individually, together under the head. He is the head of the body, and the body includes Hebrews, Gentiles, Jews, Chinese. It doesn't matter. They're saying it does matter. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with like somebody like Martin Zender. He teaches that all the time. Jews are earthly, Christians are, celestial, they're heavenly. Why? Why? I never seen a good response. Well, because they have to keep the law and commandments and we don't. That's their answer. It just doesn't make sense. It's stupid. They're also one. They're also becoming spiritual and understanding these things. So I have the last few videos maybe seem, I don't know what they seem. I'm just always speaking my mind, whatever's going on. But those videos, I could say, are a product of me examining some of the other things people are saying maybe, and not necessarily what I actually fully believe. A Jew, a Hebrew is saved by faith the same way that a Gentile is. How obvious is that? That's what's written. It's written down. Clear, easy to understand proof. And I think most of the confusion exists with the Jews that existed back then that were demanding like physical circumcision and all these other things. But I'm going to end the video here. I'm still looking into some things, but I have a problem with what people continue to teach, division. That doesn't exist.